Good morning and welcome to According to Courtney. I'm Courtney West, and if this is your first time joining us, welcome. And if you're a repeat, so good to have you again. So here on According to Courtney, I love to be able to come and give you beautiful facts about different ways that you can fill your cup, find specialties with mental health, things with Black maternal health, and everything in between. Today, we're sitting and talking about what happens after you've had your baby and you're breastfeeding and you're having some difficulties and you've talked to your doula and they've tried some help and it's still not getting there. Who do you call in? And many times you call into a lactation consultant in the beginning portion, but if you need some more help, you call into an IBCLC. And then you may be asking, what is that? Well, that's what we're going to go over today with our great guest. So we're going to go ahead and introduce our guest for today. Good morning.
Hi.
How are
Good
you?
morning. Doing wonderful.
I'm so glad to have you here. So today we have Miss Deidre Washington. She is an IBCLC in the local community who's doing amazing things. So I'm so glad to have you here on our show today.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. I'm honored.
I'm so glad. So every time I open up a show, I open it up the same way. I always love to ask these first three questions to kind of ground the space. So I always like to ask people, what is your name and what is the meaning behind your name? Where you're from, meaning where your people from, and then what do you want to bring into the space today to share?
All right. Well, my name is Deidre Washington. That's a really funny question, Courtney. I do not know the meaning of my name.
No problem.
I've never looked it up. I'm going to do that right after we get off this call. And my intention today is just to hang out with you, a very good friend of mine, and also just share some of my knowledge and share what it is that I do for work. And, the type of services that I can provide, and just a glimpse into what it is to breastfeed and maybe have difficulties, and through the lens of a Black person that has breastfed, and that strives to support Black people through their journey, especially because we have unique and different issues and, things in the background that we need to address. And it's not always breastfeeding, it's other things. So that would be my intention today.
I love it. And you really touched on a lot of important points that, that one, Black women do breastfeed. That is a common misconception for many people, which is always hilarious to me because especially in the South, that we fed everyone, we breastfed everyone, but people think that we really don't breastfeed. And I love that we have you here to, kind of just get through some of those misconceptions. So first of all, let's start off here. What is an IBCLC?
An IBCLC, it stands for International Board Certified Lactation Consultant. Just a fancy way of saying that I met a bunch of standards. I had to have a lot of specific educational requirements. I had to accumulate clinical experience over a portion of time, and I had to pass a comprehensive exam. So it's kind of like the gold standard in lactation. We have to have the most amount of experience in education for the clinical side and also for counseling as well. So yeah, that's kind of what I am. There's a bunch of other certifications that you can get in this space. When we use the general term lactation consultant, that can be anybody that provides lactation support with any type of training or certification. So there's CLCs, which is a certified lactation consultant. I actually have that credential as well, just because I think it's important to uphold that counseling portion. That's one of my favorite parts, is like the listening and kind of understanding the point of view of our families.
That's really important.
Yeah. So there's so many other ones. There's peer counselors that are moms that are in the community helping other moms because they've been breastfeeding. a myriad of so many different credentials.
And all these credentialings are so important. Like myself, I'm a lactation consultant along with being a doula. And, you know, my overall joke is I can help you with the basics as a mother who breastfed 2 children, one for 2.5 years, one for 3.5 years. But when it starts to get hairy, I call in my people. The joke is I don't deal with the titties. I deal with what's under the below. If you need the titty work, I call in my titty people. So it's all
there you
good.
Go.
Because everyone has their passions with it. And speaking of that, what got you into lactation and put you on this journey to become an IBCLC?
Sure. Yeah, it's a really good question. It stems back just from when I was younger. I've always been like inclined to help people. And married with that is that my sisters and I, we've always been really active and in athletics and things like that. So in college, it was important for me to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. I landed on athletic training in the beginning, which is like way different from lactation. I wanted to be a trainer for like a sports team. I play volleyball. I liked kind of that.
Did you really?
I did.
Me too. That's all. Like I wanted to be an athletic trainer for the Tampa Bay Bucks. That's what I went when I first went into nursing. My whole I was like, I'm gonna be an athletic trainer.
Yes.
These football players, and I'm gonna make him my husband. So that was the whole goal.
Yeah, similar, very similar. I dated athletes and things like that. That's another story for another day.
Child, we ain't even gonna go there. I had a baby by 1 too. Don't do it.
Exactly. Don't go there. So I went to college. I went into the athletic training program. I did not get in. So I was like, I need to figure something out, and I'm not trying to stay in college all day. I mean, for the rest of my life. Right. So I got into nutrition and dietetics. And in one of my classes, we learned about humans' first nutrition, which is breastfeeding. They did not go over a lot of stuff. They were like, hey, there's this thing. Most people should do it. And I was like, it came in my mind and left. Fast forward, my first big girl job was for the state of Florida. I was a nutritionist for the WIC program. And one of our parts of our job was to support and educate about breastfeeding. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. Never really thought about it up until this point. And then I was just like taken aback by how many people had problems, how many people couldn't do it. And I'm looking and I'm like, Black people have the most problems. And just that really started my journey down, like trying to understand and support these families. We got a little bit of training on the job about, just the basics. And I found very quickly that those basics that I learned is not enough to like help these families reach their goal. And, what we were supposed to tell them is you're supposed to exclusively breastfeed for the first 6 months. Most people weren't hitting that goal. So, I went down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out and up my skills because, I wanted to support these people better than this basic stuff that I had. So I became a certified lactation consultant. A certified lactation counselor. Okay. And, found my way through mentorship and things like that I could have the credential of IBCLC. So that's kind of where I got started with it.
It's so awesome. And it's such a beautiful thing that it's just something you've always wanted to help people. And I love that nutrition brought you here because it's the first nutrition that is given. And we always really preach that. I know I do when it comes to breastfeeding. It's like, you don't understand the immunity you're giving your baby for even just breastfeeding for 3 days. What you give and what your body is so amazing, what your body can make, and that you're able to make this.
Exactly.
You hit on a point that I think is very interesting, and I would like to kind of come back to, is that you stated in you working with WIC, you noticed that Black families had the most difficulty.
Yes.
What type of difficulties did you see, and why do you think they've had more difficulties?
I saw a lot of just like misinformation and even basic things like breast milk and formula are the same.
Yeah.
And, just educating that they're completely different. Yes, they're food and a baby can thrive on either one, but just teaching them that the normal food that we're supposed to eat is human milk.
Mm-hmm.
That if, there's so many, if you breastfeed your baby, nobody can watch your baby because your baby is going to be so clingy and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of breaking that down and understanding, like, not just in my early days at WIC, I would like jump in and just like give facts.
Yeah.
And then over time, I found that like stepping back and listening and getting to the actual root of the problem. So what sounds like I don't want to breastfeed and it's not something I even want to do, really meant like I'm scared and nobody in my family has done it. I haven't seen anything. I don't know where to get support. So really like finding the root of some of those problems is something I came across in my time at WIC. That there's generational and there's historical trauma. So even learning about that, I remember you did a presentation at TGH. I think that was the first time I've seen you speak.
That was the first time we saw each other in passing. Yeah.
Yes. And I was just, blown away by the impact of like how this nation started. And like you said at the top of the story, at the top of this call, that we fed this country, like literally. And just helping families unpack that. No, do we need to talk about how our great-great-grandmothers were wet nurses and that's why it's affecting you now? No, it's about listening and seeing, what their issues are and things like that. So
absolutely. There has to be a balance. And like, I know a lot of times with my clientele, we will go there. I'll be like, well, who breastfed around you? Mm-hmm. Well, no one. I said, okay, yep. Who's encouraging you to breastfeed you? Well, no one. I said, well, why? Mm-hmm. It's like, right. And it's always the same. Well, they all say that there's no one to watch my baby and no one will take it because your baby be too clingy and things like that. And I have to break it down for them a lot of times and say, hey, let me talk to you about something so you won't take it so personal. It's that society said that we weren't allowed to love our babies.
Correct.
We couldn't hold our babies. We couldn't have our babies near. We had to give our milk away to someone else for the nutritional bias of it. And you got the leftovers. And so what they're trying to do is not to not be loving. What they're trying to do is to set you up. That has been passed down generation to generation. So when enslaved people would breastfeed their babies and their babies to snatch from them the trauma that causes. So you're passing down generational trauma. So don't take it to the point of your mom doesn't love you and doesn't want to support you. She was taught and probably told that formula was just as good as breast milk, or actually a lot of times Black women were told that their breast milk wasn't good enough and that formula was better, which is very interesting because most Black and brown people have lactose allergies. And so more formulas are not fortified for our bodies and our babies tend to get sicker sometimes.
Correct.
Or have higher allergies that would normally wouldn't be there if you breastfed. And a lot of times when you tell them that, they're like, oh.
Yeah. Yep. And it's really interesting. I was finding that it was just common for Black people to think that babies need formula. Like, it's like, I breastfeed a little bit and that's nice, but like, all right, now when it's time to eat, they need formula. And it was a little bit of that miseducation of like, feeding and caring for your baby are not two separate events. Like, it's all the same. And understanding that you're giving nutrients at the breast, yes, but you're also giving love, support, warmth, snacks, drinks, all of that kind of stuff. So they're not independent of each other. It's all part of it.
Absolutely. And also going against that misconception that babies are supposed to be born independent.
Yes.
And that's not a cultural conception of things that are normal here.
Right.
But it's been made normal to think that, okay, you're supposed to put this baby down. This baby's just been in your body for 9 months.
Right. Exactly.
You're going to put it in a little crib that's not warm and they're going to be okay. And that if you are loving and coddling and comforting your child you're a bad parent. Where else do you teach this? Nowhere else. And you don't see this heavy in any other population but us, that is very, very much pushed. And it's usually by our own family members that
it is.
this
We
is
got to
what
get
it
this thing going. They don't need to be so clingy. They need to cry it out, figure it out, because that's how it had to be in the past. That's how it had to be in the past.
Right. And having to have those conversations, I feel like with breastfeeding, that's the main conversation. And I think, I know for me, I was very blessed that I was raised in a household with my mother and my grandmother who didn't believe in that. My mother couldn't breastfeed long periods of time because she was caught and no one would give her the time. And so we did the formulas, and I was allergic to everything. So I had to go old school on goat's milk. I was like, we only knew that because of my grandmother. And she's like, yo, we got to give this kid some goat's milk, or someone's going, we don't have no wet nurses. This is what it is.
Right. Yeah.
And so I find that very interesting with my children. I was the only one in my family that breastfeed. My grandmother tried with her second oldest child, and she was allergic to her milk, and that did something to her internally, that she was just like, I'm good on this. And I remember doing it, and everyone was like, how long you gonna do this for? Like, you don't have no shame? Like, what is this movement? But it took the evidence of my first one for doing it for 2.5 years for them to be like, let's compare this child to this. Like, my child never got sick.
Exactly.
Neither one of my children have ever had ear infections before. And just, really having to praise the benefits of it. And then for that, the second time around, 7 years later, I didn't catch any more flack from it. They're just like, this is what Courtney does. Please just be quiet. Leave her alone. It's a fight that you really don't want. And I
want the smoke.
Listen, that was my whole thing. I want the smoke and the fire. Come with it. Because I would openly breastfeed. I didn't have cover babies. And a lot of times people are like, you need to be, they make breastfeeding and modesty go hand in hand, that you must be a unmodest person if you breastfeed. And if you do, you have to cover yourself all the way up to feed. And I always thought that was a very interesting concept, because when I gave birth, I was in Tallahassee with my godparents who were Nigerian. So I was raised around a bunch of African people who didn't believe in that. So I would leave the room to go nurse or feed. And it took my father pulling me out the room. He said, why are you in here? Because we had family over and everything. I said, well, I have to feed the baby. He said, but you're in the middle of eating. Well, I don't want to be, disrespectful. He pulled me out the room. He took the blanket off the baby. He said, the baby needs sunlight to eat. But she's like, do you eat in the dark? He said, if you're not having cookies or anything, do you eat dinner in the dark? I was like, no. I was like, no, I don't. And he's like, okay. And my child's father had encouraged me doing that. And he's like,
yes.
He said, this is my house. You can leave. She doesn't have to do that. And he fed me my food. And he's like, I never was covering again. But it was so beautiful being in a room with 15 other women and their husbands. They're like, and they literally talked to me and then talked to him saying like, don't you ever tell your wife she needs to remove herself from her space and that she's not allowed to eat.
Yeah.
And like, this is community. How do you expect your child to grow into community if you're shaming your child and shaming her for feeding? And that was such a comforting concept. So when I came back to St. Pete and doing this work, I came with that same smoke and fire to everybody, with dad, mom, everybody. Hey, you eat in the dark?
Exactly. In the bathroom, under a cover. Are you sweating while you're eating? No, my baby does not need to be under this thing in the dark. They need to be looking at other people. So good job, Dad. Thank you for pulling Courtney out of the bedroom.
I pull it. I give Jonathan, I'll do many praises. I was like, nah, he raised different kind of kids. And I'm glad I had that aspect, because then I could share it with other people, because no one around me did that.
Yeah. And when I'm talking to my moms, I tell them the exact same thing. Like, you're an ambassador. So you just sitting and feeding your baby and somebody else seeing you do it, like, can open up floodgates and give them confidence that they can do the same thing. So keep it up. Even just, doing your normal thing can be an inspiration to somebody else.
Absolutely.
And I felt that too, even like as a Black lactation consultant. Like, I understand this seat at the table that I have, because there's not many of us. The demographics in this profession, it's just staggering that it's like less than 3% of lactation professionals are Black, or IBCLCs are Black. So I understand the weight that carries, and people look to me, and when I show up and it's me, like I know that that's helpful. Because where else are you going to get that support from somebody that looks like you?
And how important that is to have someone that looks like you to give that support. Why do you think we don't have so many lactation consultants and IBCLCs of color in the industry?
It's really hard to become a lactation consultant. So with my background in nutrition, like I had my degree, I had all the sciences already set up there. So just me having a bachelor's degree gave me that leg up. So anybody can become a lactation consultant. You have to have the sciences, like science courses. You have to have hands-on experience. So you need mentorship. I got that just from being an employee at WIC. I could use my hours. If you are not an employee of WIC, or you don't have somebody that can mentor you for free, that's a whole thing. That's a whole nother thing. The expense of this credential is just, it's astronomical. So that's a barrier in and of itself. There's a lot of gatekeeping in this profession. So it's not a very old profession. I think we've been around since 1986. It's the same year I was born.
I love it.
And it was started by white women, like La Leche League leaders. And then, they made a credentialing agency. And it just, there's a lot of barriers that make it hard for people of color to attain. So, we try to change that. There are programs and different mentorships that people can get into if they are looking into getting into the profession, if they are having issues with some of those barriers of, finding mentors, affording the cost of the classes and the exam and all of that. So
I can tell when I looked into it a few years ago, and that was my main barrier, was because I didn't want to necessarily always have mentors that were white women. And at the time when I was looking, there was no other options. And then the test of the course and everything that came with it, because I would feel, sometimes very uncomfortable because the conversations or what they were teaching, yes, had the scientific piece to it, but lacked the cultural piece of it.
Yes.
So when I would sit into there, I was like, and you're trying to be, I'm the student, you're the teacher, but you're teaching BS right now. And I'd be like, hold on, time out. You're not going to sit here and tell this Black woman this, where you have no idea of the cultural background and the ramifications of what just came out your mouth. You just destroyed someone in 10 seconds without even understanding what you just did. And I felt like that was my main thing of like, all right. And I can say this was 7 years ago. That's why I bailed out of doing it. I said, well, I already have my lactation consultants. I'm going to focus more on this part of it. And when, the right ones come, and I am very blessed to know 3 Black IBCLCs, which is so rare. I just be like, okay, well, I'm going to... Because I gave y'all praises and credit. I'm like, I don't know how y'all do this, because I know what I'm good at, my realm of what I do. But that piece right there is so just getting through it. The testing so much wasn't so much what I was concerned about. It was just doing the mentorship and to be able to sit through it was a lot.
Absolutely. And, I understand I have privilege in even the Black community, because the complexion of my skin, I have privilege, and I understand that, and I know that people feel more comfortable with me. So, me showing up with what I look like, people automatically kind of calm down a little bit. Oh, Deidre's this and that. So I'm gaining the knowledge, but this knowledge is going to open the doors for other people. So I'm just kind of standing back, getting what I need to do so it can open the floodgates. And that's really important to me, is being that like kind of portal into this profession for other Black and brown people to come through.
And I think that's so beautiful. And I like really push that for when I meet new people. They're like, I like doula, but I really love lactation, but I don't know what I can do with it. I am notorious. Are you in Tampa Bay area? Do you know Deidre Washington? Why don't you? Here's her number. Here's her social media, and go talk to her. I said the best thing you can do is ask questions, and I said the thing I will tell you that is the most important thing is to have a really strong mentorship, and that mentorship where you can ask real questions. Right. From a cultural competent lens. Not saying that you can't get good instruction and mentorship from other people, but it's something to be able to say, hey, I have a client who is on her 6th child. She's never breastfed before. She works 60 hours a week and she's not getting enough nutrition. I don't know how to help her. That's a whole different conversation to have than you're going to get 2 different kind of answers possibly by just having someone who has that cultural lens to be like, okay, it's okay.
Because we know what we can kind of presume what she's going through, like her 6th kid, how people are perceiving her, those barriers that she has. Maybe she doesn't have that support, so like what's understood doesn't have to be explained when you already are coming from that cultural understanding, as opposed to the feelings she may have to show up to, say, a white woman, and she has to explain all of this stuff. But to me, she doesn't have to explain all of the stuff. We can get right into it. When I show up, I can see my Black families, their shoulders immediately relax because we're the same, not the same, but like we're very similar.
They can look at you and feel that safety of, you're not here to judge me. And I feel like I noticed that a lot of times in the Black and brown community is that, a lot of times like the narrative out here is that we don't breastfeed. Black people don't breastfeed. Black people are not close and intimate with our newborns, which I always find hilarious. I laugh about that all the time because I'm like, so we can birth the nation. We can be the midwives of the nations. We can be the wet nurses of the nations. We took care of, these slave owners' children, and we were great at that. But as soon as we're not doing that, then we are inadequate to take care and care for our own. And having to always unpack that and have to tell people like, no, we're here. No, we do breastfeed. And then, just having to be like, holding space for that. So, and how do you hold space for people do that? Like, do people reach out to you? Like, do they DM you? How do they, say they want to be loved up by you?
I think just listening. So even like, yes, people reach out to me, they DM me, and like, I just let them talk. I may ask a few questions and things like that, but like, I want to hear what your birth story is. I want to know exactly like what your concerns are. Like, even before we like book a consult and we're doing this like in-depth thing and I'm going through your medical history and all of that, I just want to know, how did you feel about your birth? Like, are we even a good match? So just really listening and not doing most of the talking. I think that is how I hold space for families, because a lot of times they're getting talked over, especially in the, in hospitals and things like that. Black people are not being heard. They're not being listened to. So I always take that opportunity to listen first and then, offer my suggestions or advice and things like that.
I love that. I love that. And that's so important. It's so beautiful that that's what you led with. It's like, I listen. And I feel like to be a really good birth worker in general, you have to listen to what is going on and hear what someone's experiences are.
Yeah.
You can really help them.
and listen for that deeper meaning. It might seem like, on the surface that I can't breastfeed or it's not working out, but it's really, I don't have enough support. My partner's not there. I'm hungry, like, things like that. So once we kind of address those things, breastfeeding can be going fine. It's like these other things. You're worried about going to work. You're worried about your pump. Do you have, all these things set in place? So I'm listening out for those, and I'll let them get it all the way out. I'm not punching in and saying, giving facts right away. Oh, that's not right. And just shutting the conversation down. It's listening. It's nodding my head. Even the things that are incorrect, like, I know what they're saying with it. Like, I get it. And letting them get it all out, and then bringing it back and say, oh, I noticed that you said, your baby's always hungry, and that's why you give a bottle after you breastfeed. But it's really that your baby needs to be held, and they want to be close to you. And when they hear that and they maybe try a suggestion that I gave, they're like, oh, it is that. I see that even though I breastfed, they looked full and satisfied. And what I was doing is putting them in the crib, and they automatically woke up, and I assumed that meant that they didn't get enough. And I'm like, no, mommy, put them in the carrier, sit on that couch and just chill and relax. And, giving them that permission to really relax into the love and the caring and all of that for the baby. And that breastfeeding is not separate from any of that.
I love that. So we're actually at our midpoint right now. So we're going to stop.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. And this is our nice musical segment today. And we're going to see what we're getting today. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Today, this is one of our blast artists. His name is Yamasani. And the name of this song is called Circle of Life. So let's check it out.
It touches on reincarnation too. It touches on previous lives and how your karmic debt is what it's called in a previous life determines what you do in this life, what happens to you in this life.
Well, man,
so your karmic debt turns into challenges that you got to overcome in this life. And if you don't overcome the challenges, you're going to go do them again. So I already know that the temper and all that, I already know that was one of my karmic debts. Sexual energy, just sexual addictions and things of that nature. I already know that was a part of my karmic debt. I know what I had to overcome. Alcoholism, I had to overcome that.
You said karmic debt.
Karmic.
Oh, now that's real. Pops a rolling stone and flatten grass fields. My mandatory raps a passive act spill. React like Drax will relax, I'm past chill. This manifestation of imagination is just a creation of communication with an integration system like the Matrix, filled with entertainment, pastors, education. Court-appointed lawyers for blacks in litigation. Corporate enormous tax cut and evasion. Saw George Floyd on the news and couldn't take it. It's hard to tightrope, walk it all, but I'm a Grayson. One day we not gonna be passive with the slaying. One day we might just put action to the saying. One day we'll stop all the blasting and the spraying and stop carrying weapons that will smith you like Jaden. To be free to you, to them is disobeying. They told you to get into heaven, you needed praying. They left out the heavens, your thoughts and where you haven. It's not you, it's we, it's deep, it's complicated.
One day you have it, one day you have it, go away. One day you have it, one day you have it, go away, go away. Don't take it serious, serious. It's an experience, experience. Don't take it serious, serious. It's an experience, experience. Shine bright like a solar light. Know we can make everything alright. Yeah.
Shine bright like a solar light, and know you can make everything alright. Yeah.
Shine bright like a solar light. You know we can make everything alright. Yeah.
Shine bright like a solar light, and know you can make everything alright. Yeah. Yeah, you gon' get it today. I'ma send it your way. This a clinic, don't forget every visit you pay. It's cringeworthy to say I've been perfect, cause hey, the kids calling my name. I'm too busy to play. This a scrimmage, shirt skins, the ending is late. Life's a scary movie with hands digging your plate to take the dividends, dollars and pennies you make. I'm transparent with you, even when you really opaque. Marcus Aurelius states, everything you hear is an opinion, not a fact. But is that really the case? Cause we all know planes leave a chemical trace, and we knew he was guilty. You see Zimmerman's face, and we all want to crash in the video chase, and we want that hottie to let us feel on her waist, and we know one day we will see God's grace transcend our body and be up in outer space.
Bright like a solar light, know we can make everything alright. Yeah. One day you have it, one day you have it. Shine bright like a solar light, you know we can make everything alright. Yeah. One day you have it, one day you have it. Don't take it serious, serious. It's an experience, experience. Don't take it serious, serious. It's an experience, experience. Shine bright like a solar light, know we can make everything alright. Yeah.
Shine bright like a solar light, and know you can make everything alright. Yeah.
Shine bright like a solar light, you know we can make everything alright. Yeah.
Shine bright like a solar light, and know you can make everything alright. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And that was Yamasani with chiropractor C. Rich with Circle of Life. And if you are an independent artist, spoken word poet, or even up-and-coming comedian looking for some exposure, you can go to blastmusic247.com and register for free. But Blast is also looking for the fans. So if you love great music, just like that song from Yamasani, you can go to blastmusic247.com, register for free as a fan, and have access to hundreds and hundreds of great independent music. Blast, changing the industry one artist at a time. All right, ladies, back to you.
Thank you. I love him. I just love how the combination. I love that song because it's like you're bright like a solar light. And
Right.
yeah, and it's a black.
And the video was lit too. He was like, he was really getting chiropractic work.
He was. That was a real adjustment. I felt that. I was like, yes. As soon as it was like, yeah, I already know where I'm going. Right. All cracked up together. So I love it. And if you know, you guys are just back joining in, we have Deidre Washington here, an amazing IBCLC in the Tampa Bay area doing great things. You know, I love that you hit on a point, and I wanted to kind of ask you about that, about misconceptions or wrong information that's been put out there. What are some common misconceptions that you've heard in your practice when it comes around breastfeeding?
Yeah, one of the major ones is that breastfeeding hurts. It's like the ones that are strong enough can get through it, but in actuality, breastfeeding should not hurt. If there is pain, that means you need help. So, you know, that's like one of the number one things. A lot of people think that they need a lot of stuff to breastfeed. They need the pump, they need this, they need the warming thing that vibrates and like all of this stuff. And a lot of what I do is just kind of undoing that, like help you figure out what you need and what's like specific for you and your unique experience. So freeing parents of the burden of having to purchase a lot of things is one of the things that I work with. And just being the sounding board for them, because everybody's reading the internet and Googling all the things. And we see, for instance, like freezers full of milk. So a mom may think that she has to have a freezer full of milk before she goes back to work. When in actuality, you don't. You just need enough to get through that day. And while you're at work, you pump and you bring home. And what you bring home is for the baby the next day. Let's see. We talked about a couple of them, like the whole formula thing, which one's better, which one's healthiest. and it's really unique for each and every person. So there's a place for formula, right?
Yes.
So I don't demonize it. I don't say, you know, this is horrible thing. There is a place for it. There's medical necessity sometimes. But, you know, the question of like, which one's the closest to breast milk? I love that one. If you Google it, there's going to be answers that pop up. And, you know, there's no formula that's close to breast milk.
At all. And a lot of times people don't understand that's a marketing ploy. So marketing will say, we're just as good or as best or as better than breastfeeding. Or the closest to breast milk. I was like, how can you be closest by something that is made by my body, that's made for my child specifically? You're mass producing something, but my body is making this specifically for this baby. Right. What you think, what you got is great. And it's not realistic at all. And it puts unrealistic, you know, thought processes on people. And breastfeeding isn't supposed to, in my opinion, stress you out. Like, and I find it interesting that you're saying so many people needed more stuff. I felt for me, that was the most real. That's the nicest part about it. I said, I don't need nothing. A boppy would be great, but I got all these pillows around the house.
Exactly. The one on your bed works maybe better if you fold it up, or, you know.
And I love that, especially like in the hospitals helping people. They're like, I don't have my boppy. I was like, oh girl, do you think you're gonna have a boppy for real in real life all the time? It's not realistic.
My thing is just like to simplify it all the way down. And if we need to add pieces, we can. That's like my whole thing. And, you know, I really draw strength from my personal experience with that I didn't want to have all that stuff. And I really trialed and errored. And there were things that were really useful for me. And then there were other things I'm like, why is this even being sold? So
I find, and I think that's really great that you are able to share that, and then also that you've done it, and you can be a great IBCLC and never breastfeed. That's fine, but it's something about having someone who's like, listen, what I'm asking you to do is not something I haven't done myself.
Yes, and I remember when I supported families before I had babies, that little bit of judgment would like slip in just because I didn't understand. I did not have that experience. Girl, now I'll be like, that's how it is, you know, like all the things that I said I wouldn't do, I do. And, you know, just really try to be transparent and share with families that, yeah, I thought that way too. And then I tried it this way, and it's very freeing. So
I love it. What are some great tips you would love to leave with the viewers of saying, hey, you're pregnant right now, you're about to have your baby, or you just had your baby and you're trying to understand what breastfeeding is about, and you don't have anyone around you who's either ever done it or the support you got in the hospital, which we're going to get I want you to give us the advice, and then we're going to come back to that, because you know, and that's
a whole show.
Man, listen. The trauma people. So think of someone who came out the hospital, you know, the traumas that come from the hospital, from the lactation people in the hospital. What would you give them?
If hire an IBCLC. If you can afford it, hire it. It's good money to spend on a good one. See if your insurance can cover it, because I accept certain insurances. And then there's free ones around. So even just searching on your Instagram or Googling and things like that, like where can you get free lactation help or an IBCLC, a Black IBCLC? Find that support, because Dr. Google is going to give you every answer under the sun of what you're looking for. So get like specialized help, right? Because even pediatricians, they are not experts in lactation. They can actually, I do a lot of, you know, undoing of what pediatricians say. So I'm the specialist, we're the specialists. This is what we do all day. We know all the things. And if we don't, we're going to point you in the direction of who does. Like, so that's number one. If it hurts, get help. It should not hurt. I tell people to tell the truth, share your experience. It helps other people. So that can be in mom groups, that can be in breastfeeding support groups. Get support wherever you can. I think first and foremost, I should have said, is hire a doula. That should be number one. Like, you know, I come in the game. Yes, I want to educate you prenatally, but like a doula is going to help you know your choices and to help you understand those choices and stand up for yourself and develop a birth plan. And, you know, there's like you can leave a review. Courtney, I'm sure you've heard of it, the Earth app.
No, actually, I haven't heard of the Earth app.
The Earth app, Kimberly Seals Allers created it's like a Yelp-like review for Black and Brown people where they can share their experiences at medical sites or, you know, the care that they've gotten from medical providers, and they can leave reviews so that other Black people can read it and decide if that's the kind of care they want to go with.
Ooh, that's so awesome.
I'll definitely make sure I drop that in the chat. But yeah, that's part of sharing your experience so that other people are privy to it, so we can move and shake how we need to. Our power is in our dollar, so let's not spend our money on these trash facilities and providers.
Say it again. Say it for the ones in the back. In the back. In the back.
Like, our power is in the pockets. So.
Absolutely. Take your money, and I always explain to people, you know, if you want to get experience, you know, we put, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars into a baby shower, which is great. But putting money into someone being there with you. And I go over that. So what's your budget for when it's like, okay, do you want a doula? Do you plan to have an IBCLC? Do you want a postpartum doula? What are you looking for? And people are like, I don't even know what is this for? It's like, so that you have all the best things that you need. And also to incorporate that into, if you're having a baby shower, why not have people assist you in paying for these things? You don't necessarily need 15 size 0 onesies when you can put that into having someone who's going to come to your house, be with you one-on-one for as long as it needs to take to make sure that you're comfortable with breastfeeding, or even more important, they're going to meet you at the hospital before anyone else can traumatize you, touch you, and be like, okay, and they're working with your doula. And how important that is to have someone that what do you really want? Do you want a team of people who are going to love up on you? Yes. Or do you want a $10,000 baby shower?
That part. And it looks nice on Instagram, and, you know, I click it twice and I keep scrolling, and it's that one photo that you get and it's over. But like putting your money into things that actually matter, like the support, like all of that thing, so that, you know, the pictures that you're taking, they might not be at the extravagant baby shower, but it'll be your baby thriving on breast milk, or, you know, you getting the support that you need. So.
Right. And then also you can still have a fabulous baby shower. You better talk to your creative friends. That friend who's starting her business, who does the decorum and everything else. So you can, you know, make it a lot of great things. So also want to ask you, in their community, so we are in the Tampa Bay area right now. Yes. So for you in our community, how do people find you? What are things you're doing? You know, you've mentioned moms groups and everything else. So what are you doing? How do people find you? There's like, I need this one. I need Deidre in my life. I need her to see me. How do they find you? How do they see you?
So I am in these lactation streets all over the place. I do a lot of things. I do own a private practice. It's called Love on Top Lactation, where I do in-home virtual phone lactation support. I do accept certain insurances. You can find me on Instagram at loveontop_lactation. Connect with me, send me DMs, send me funny memes. I also work for what's called, in this area, it's called Baby Cafe, where I show up a few days a week and provide breastfeeding support for free for families. You got to come see me, but I'm available. And there's new things on the horizon all the time. People, I love to collaborate. I love to move around, and I like to speak and for people to see me and ask me questions. So if that's something that you would want, you can definitely reach out to me. You can email me. What is my email address? Deidre at...
I was about to check it for you. I was like, hold on, what is it? I have it right here.
Where's my phone?
Where's my phone? Hold on. What we got for you? We got this. We go get it together.
Yeah. Deidre at loveontopbirth.com. You can
there you go.
My contact information is on my website. You can text me. It's a real person. I would text you back. And I do breastfeeding classes for just like I contract out for different places. So if you want to know where I'm at and where I'm teaching, we can definitely connect on that one.
She's all over the place. She's in Tampa.
I am.
She's in Clearwater. She's going to be coming
yes.
to St. Pete. So we're getting her over here in St. Pete because it's important that you have someone who can identify with, and to have a lactation class is so important. Like people take childbirth education classes, which is wonderful, and I super, think they're great. I teach them, but it's something about having a lactation class.
That's one of my tips too. Take a breastfeeding class. Like just do it to understand what's normal, what to expect. It frees you. It's like less scary when you're like, oh, this is normal. My baby's stomach is only this big and is going to eat 8 to 12 times a day. Like when you know that, it's not scary when it happens.
Absolutely. I think that's so important. I'm glad you brought that up because people don't understand when a baby's first born. Their tummy is the size of a cherry pit. That's it.
It's so small.
It's so small. And the natural reflux of a baby is to suck. So people are like, the baby's hungry. No, the baby, all they know how to do is suck. They're gonna suck, and that's what it is. It doesn't mean that they need to take, or they'll be so excited. They took this whole bottle. Okay, your child's stomach is the size of a cherry pit. It's this little bitty belly. It takes much for them to even get to the size of a golf ball. So you've overfed this baby, and they're all swole up, and you're like, "Isn't this great?" You're like.
Right. And then we try to breastfeed that baby and your body's making the amount that it should make, but we've already told it that it needs this much. So it's, the education part and just wrapping your mind around it and bringing a support person that can hear the information too, I think is important.
Yes. So, because in our last few minutes, I do want to touch on that since we brought in, because our support people, we need to give them all the loves for it being fathers, partners, whoever is with you, loving you through this process. How can support people help with the breastfeeding process? Because a lot of times I've seen with Black and brown people, the main reason they don't keep breastfeeding is because their husbands or person has a problem with it.
So the support person can help their partner by like learning about breastfeeding alongside your partner. It's not something that they do, like you said, in the back room by themselves. No, it's a familial thing. It's eating, like just how we eat a meal together. Partners should be there and involved. Can you feed the baby? Not from your body, but there's other ways down the line, and we talk about bottle feeding and things like that. So learn the information, all of the things that the birthing person would normally be doing around the house for those first 4 to 8 weeks. Like take that burden off of them. Mom or the birthing person should not be cleaning and cooking and worrying about all the things while they're trying to understand this relationship and get breastfeeding off to a good start. So just be the person that just steps in and takes most of that toll off of their plate.
I think that's beautiful and so important. And also feed this breastfeeding person.
Feed them.
They are hungry. People don't understand, like you're a machine, and the more that you're burning these calories stuff, you think you were hungry when you were pregnant. When you're breastfeeding, and I get that's the main thing, like, Courtney, I want to eat all the time. Yes.
Right.
Yes, you're burning calories. How can my partner help me? Take the plate, take the fork, feed her.
Literally.
literally feed her while she's breastfeeding, because a lot of times that's the problem. We're like ravenously hungry because you're feeding, and you haven't fed yourself. So it's just that simple of holding my plate, putting food in my mouth, and then giving me some water. Drink me, give me the juice, literally.
Give me water, all that.
All that, gave all that water. That's how them babies got here.
Exactly, that part.
But I feel like it's so important, and then that like partners need to know how important you are in the process. I know for both times for myself, I wish both of my spouses were more supportive with breastfeeding, because you know it's that hard. Well, I can't do for the baby. All I get to do is the diapers, and I'm like, no. After I got done and fed and they're comfortable, I was like, now you hold them.
Right.
You hold the baby and you get to bond. This is your bonding time. Do skin to skin with them. You know, so I'm hungry. I want to eat. If you don't want to feed me, let me feed myself. Hold your baby.
Right.
Or so I can go take a shower.
Take a nap, take a shower, brush my teeth. Like, take that burden off of them too. If you don't have, like, in the very least, don't say anything harmful. Like, if you can't find something nice to say, like, even things, baby's gonna eat again. Oh, here we go again. Or that's not helpful. And it makes the mom doubt herself, and it just plants that little seed of doubt, and it's not helpful. So tell her she's pretty, tell her she's doing a good job. Like, things like that can be sweet.
It makes such a difference. And a lot of times partners don't mean to, but they don't understand. It's like, if you've been able to live your life and do everything else, and then you know, people don't understand with breastfeeding. Sometimes it's every 2 hours. Sometimes it's every hour and a half. You're feeding. And this is what it looks like for right now until they're older. And, you know, just being encouraging and keeping those encouraging words, instead of saying, oh, is it time to feed again? And be like, hey, is it time for a snack for you, babe?
Yeah.
Completely different way of feeling that, you know, when you ain't slept and you've been up every 2 hours, you be looking like this, and then you go from that and you be looking like this.
Right.
Exactly. And that's really important to have someone to be like, hey, you're still beautiful to me. Hey, you're doing a great job. How do I help you? How do I assist you? And, you know, these are conversations as doulas we do, but I know as lactation, you guys are, I have watched y'all come in there and be like, I sat here 10 minutes and you have talked to her crazy 15 different times and you don't even realize it. Go take a walk. And
sometimes we got to cut grandma off and be like, that's not helpful. That's wrong. Like,
oh, grandmas be killing me. And they mean well, they do, but it's also that generational trauma of, you know, they're like, well, I didn't get to breastfeed my kids. I had to go do this and this and this and this and this. Just put a baby bottle in that baby mouth and keep it going. But you have to understand what grandma's really saying. What grandma's really saying is like, I don't want you to get too attached to this baby because something's going to happen to it. Or if something happens to it, or I have my own, or I have my own traumas about it. My sister breastfed like that, and then when she was hit by a truck, we couldn't take care of that baby the way, like, I've heard stories like that. It's like, you know, my family member, they solely breastfeed, and then something happened to her, and then the baby died too. And trying to help you. So when you can go through there and have those conversations, and if you're planning to breastfeed, well, the best thing I tell you, whoever's going to be your support people, make sure that they meet with your doula, your lactation person, breastfeeding class. Everybody needs to be in that space so they know how to help and how not to harm.
Correct.
So
that's the part.
That's always the thing. So Deidre, it was amazing having you here this hour. You are always welcome to come back and, you know, give some knowledge and things like that. It was so
I can't believe it's over.
I know. An hour goes super fast. That's right. I love it. And to my people, thank you for tuning in. Remember, you are loved, you're empowered, you are amazing, and you are seen. And so until next week, love you and nothing but grace. So thank you for being on According to Courtney. Until next time. Thanks, you guys.